There are other people who are taking the coverings of ignorance, like Shiva, although they also play human roles, but they do not know how to act. So in this shloka, according to Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Daksha Prajapati is glorifying Vishnu, but at the same, although in the previously Daksha Prajapati begged forgiveness from Shiva, now he is glorifying Vishnu, but at the same time, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that Daksha Prajapati is also somewhat scornfully glancing at Shiva while offering this prayer. So Daksha Prajapati is also scornfully glancing at Shiva, and thus even after the offense was annulled, but still he had a material conception. He somewhat has a material conception. He is somewhat scornfully glancing at Shiva, like that Vishnu Chakravarti says. So therefore, Daksha Prajapati, he is telling that to Vishnu, when you appear as a human being by taking the forms of Krishna and Ram, you appear to be contaminated, but actually you are only covered by knowledge. But whereas other people, like Lord Shiva, he has a covering of ignorance. Because he has a covering of ignorance, although he plays a human role, but he does not know how to act. So what is the example? The example is that Lord Shiva, he manifested himself as self-satisfied. And he showed indifference towards me when I entered that assembly. I am his father-in-law. But when I entered that assembly, he did not show respect to me. He showed indifference to me. But on the other hand, in your case, when you appear as Krishna, when you heard the death of your father-in-law, Satrajit, Satrajit is the father of Satyabhama, the wife of Lord Krishna. When you heard about the death of Satrajit, you went to Satyabhama along with Balaram and you began crying. You began crying. Bhagavatam explains this. 10th canto, 57th chapter, 10th shloka. Tad akanyeshwarau rajan anusrutya nilokatam ahona paramam kashtam it asrakshau vilepatuhu. When Lord Krishna and Balaram heard the news of Satrajit's death, Lord Krishna immediately cried, "Oh, what a great, it is the greatest tragedy for us." In that way, Krishna, by imitating the ways of human society, Krishna lamented with eyes brimming with tears. Daksha Prajapati is saying that in this way, when you appear as a human being, although you appear to be contaminated by the material gunas, you are not contaminated, and you actually exactly manifest the proper behavior which is expected. You showed, you exhibited lamentation when your father-in-law died. But on the other hand, Lord Shiva, because he is covered by ignorance, he showed indifference towards me when his father-in-law, that is myself, entered that assembly. Like that, Daksha, while glorifying Lord Vishnu, but he is having some residual material conception of Lord Shiva. That is what Vishnu Chakravarti is highlighting. So when Krishna lamented at the death of Satyajit, did Krishna's nature as the Atma Rama disappear? Atma Rama means self-satisfied. So no, Krishna's nature as Atma Rama did not disappear. Krishna is expert in all the arts. Krishna is expert in all the arts. While remaining as
एक फिर वाईफाई चेक करना है क्या
Hare Krishna.
मारा घड़ी
बीच में
डिस्कनेक्ट થઈ ગયો
नितेश जी आप थोड़ा म्यूट में रहिए.
बेटा ये ग्रीन लाइट मिसचीफ करे છે કર
So Krishna is expert in performing his leelas while remaining as an Atma Rama. So Daksha Prajapati says that you are situated in Vaikunta, Swadamani. Although you are situated in Vaikunta, you accept the form of the Mahavishnu, Purusha, who is the creator of the Mahatattva, along with Maya, and you reside within the living entities as the Garbhodakshai Vishnu, Kshirodakshai Vishnu. Although being situated in Vaikunta, you take the forms of the three Purushas, Garbhodakshai Vishnu, Kshirodakshai Vishnu, and Mahavishnu. And the Satvata Tantra says that Vishnostu Trini Rupani Purushakyahan Ato Viduhu Ekam tu Mahatasrashtru Ditiyam tu Anda Samsitam Tritiyam Sarvabhutastam Tani Jnatva Vimuchyate. So there are three Vishnus, Mahavishnu, Garbhodakshai Vishnu, Kshirodakshai Vishnu. One who knows these three Vishnus becomes liberated. So the word Aparishuddha Iva is important. The Lord appears to be impure, but is actually not impure. Whenever the word Iva Shabda comes, Iva Shabda has a meaning of Tat Sadrisham Tat Binnatve. Tat Sadrisham Tat Binnatve. That means Tat Sadrisham means appearing like that, but actually different. Tat Binnatve. So Aparishuddha Iva means the Lord appears to be contaminated, Aparishuddha, but actually he is different from that. That means like he is completely pure. So although he is situated within Maya, he is pure because he has no relationship with it. That is the real meaning of the shloka. Let us see Prabhupada's purport. There's no purport to the shloka. Next shloka. Ritvija Vuchuhu
Prithvija Uchuhu
Tattvam Nate Vayamananjana Rudrashapat
Tattvam Nate Vayamananjana Rudra Shapat
Karmanyavagrahadiyo Bhagavan Vidamaha
Karmanyavagradhiyo Bhagavan Vidamaha
Dharmopalakshanamidam Triviradvarakyam
Dharmopalakshanam Idam Trivada Dwarakhyam
Jnatam Yadarthamadidaiva Vyavasthaha.
Jnatam Yadhartamadhidaiva Madho Yavastha. The translation. The priests addressed the Lord, saying, O Lord, transcendental to material contamination, by the curse offered by Lord Shiva's men, we have become attached to fruitive activities, and thus we are now fallen, and therefore do not know anything about you. On the contrary, we are now involved in the injunctions of the three departments of the Vedic knowledge under the plea of executing rituals in the name of Yajna. We know that you have made arrangements for distributing the respective shares of the demigods.
So here the Ritvijas, the priests were offering these prayers. They are addressing the Lord by the word, O uncontaminated Lord. What is the word which is used? Ananjana. Ananjana means what? Without material contamination. Ananjana, O uncontaminated Lord. They say that Rudra Shapat. Rudra Shapat here refers to the followers of that is Lord Shiva, that is Nandishwara. Because of the curse of Nandishwara, we have become absorbed in the fruitive activities, karma kanda. Karmani avagraha diyo. Avagraha diya means becoming too much attached.
અડધો લઈ લે એટલે
Nitesh
ત્રણ
ji,
થઈ
avagraha diya means becoming too much attached. So because of the curse of Nandishwara, avagraha diyo karmani, we have become absorbed in the fruitive activities. Tattvam nate. Tattvam nate vayam. Nate vayam vidamaha. Therefore, we do not know the truth about you. So when a person becomes absorbed in the fruitive activities, one cannot understand the transcendental truth about the Supreme Lord. We do not know the truth about you. And then they say that Advarakyam, we know you. What we know is that we know you as in the form of sacrifice. We know you as a personification of sacrifice, yagya. And dharma upalakshanam. We know you in the form of the sacrifice called dharma for idam trivrid. Trivrid means for attaining dharma, artha and kama. And when a person performs the sacrifice, the result is an arrangement for the devatas share. Jnatam yadartam adidaivam ado vyavastha. So we know you that you are the personification of sacrifice, all this, which is called dharma, for attaining artha, dharma and kama. And when a person performs sacrifice, the results of the sacrifice are shared by the devatas. So here the priests in that sacrificial arena, they are saying that because of the curse of Nandishwara, we have become absorbed in karma and therefore we do not know you. So if you remember in the 10th canto also, in the cowherd boys and Krishna told Krishna that we are hungry. Krishna Balram told that nearby some Brahmanas are performing a sacrifice. You go and beg from them for some foodstuffs. When the Krishna's friends went to those Brahmanas, they did not pay any attention to the words or the plea of these cowherd boys. Because they were absorbed in performing the fruitive activities, they were absorbed in their goal of going to heaven. So because of that, they did not pay attention. They completely neglected to the appeal that Krishna and Balarama are hungry. So therefore, when a person is absorbed in this worldly activities, when a person is absorbed in improving the comforts within this world, such a person does not pay attention to the transcendental truth about the Supreme Lord. So the Ritvijas, the priests are saying this. The priests are saying that we know your form as the personification of sacrifice, which yields artha, dharma, and kama. And by the result of the sacrifice, the devatas get their share. The Prabhupada says that Vedas are called as Trigunya Vishaya Veda. So those who are serious students of the Vedas, they are not very much interested in the fruitive activities part of the Vedas. And those people who are absorbed in the fruitive activities of the Vedas, they are called as the Veda Vada Rathas. They cannot understand the ultimate goal of the Vedas, that is to understand Krishna. They think that the goal of the Vedas is to simply keep performing the Karma Kanda activities. But those who have transcended the attraction to the fruitive activities, Shruti Viprati Yada Stasyati Nischala Samadha Vachala Buddhis Shrotavyasya Shrutasya Cha. Those who have transcended the qualitative Vedic attraction, only they can understand Krishna, because Krishna is never contaminated by the material qualities. Therefore, Krishna is addressed by the word Ananjana, free from contamination. So, Yamimam Pushpitam Vacham Pravadantyavipaschitaka Vedavada Rata Partha Nanyat Astiti Vadinaha. The men of small knowledge are attracted by the flowery words of the Vedas. Next shloka. Sadasya Vuchuhu
Sadasya Uchuhu
Utpatyadvan Asharana Guruklesha Durgenta Kogra
Utpattadvani Asaranya Uruklesha Durgar Nakogra
Vyalan Vishte
Vyalan Viste
Vushaya Mrugatrishi
Vishaya Mrugatrishi
Atma Gehor Baraha
Atma Gehoru Bharaha
Dvandvashvabre
Dvandva Swabre
Khala Mrugabaye
Khalamruga Bhaye
Shokadavegnya Sartaha
Shokadavegna Sartaha
Padau Kaste
Padau Kaste
Sharanada Kada Yati
Sharanadakada Yati
Kamopasrishtaha.
Kamo Pasrastaha. Translation. The members of the assembly address the Lord, O exclusive shelter for all who are situated in troubled life. In this formidable fort of conditional existence, the time element, like a snake, is always looking for an opportunity to strike. This world is full of ditches of so-called distress and happiness, and there are many ferocious animals always ready to attack. The fire of lamentation is always blazing, and the mirage of false happiness is always alluring. But one has no shelter from them. Thus, foolish persons live in the cycle of birth and death, always overburdened in discharging their so-called duties, and we do not know when they will accept the shelter of your lotus feet.
Very beautiful prayer. The members of the assembly, they are giving a very graphic description of the material world. They are saying that Utpatti Advani. Advani is a road. This samsara, the road of samsara is asharana, is without a resting place. Sometimes when you are walking on a long path, you get tired and you look for a resting place, some shade of a tree or at least maybe some house or some place where you can just lie down for some time. But the samsara is without a resting place, asharana. And then This samsara is having the holes of happiness and distress. There are many holes in this road of samsara. And these holes are the holes of happiness and distress. 1 minute, which is the word for that? Okay, Dvandva Shvabre. Dvandva Shvabre means it refers to the dualities of happiness and distress, and they are the holes in this road of samsara. The samsara is compared to a road. The first quality of this road is that it is without any resting place. Second quality is that it has different holes of happiness and distress. And then the third quality is that Khala Mrigabaye. This road of samsara has got wild animals. And because of the wild animals, the wild animals create fear in this samsara. Khala Mrigabaye. This is the third quality of the samsara. And the fourth quality is that Shoka Dave. In this road of samsara, there is forest fire of lamentation. There are so many forest fires which keep coming. The forest fires of lamentation is present in the samsara. And then the fifth quality is that Vyalan Vishte. There is a snake of time. Antakogra Ugra Vyalan Vishte. There is in this samsara, there is a presence of the fearful snake of time. Antakogra Vyalan Vishte, fearful snake of time. And then, apart from that, the samsara has got it is dangerous with 5 types of suffering. So there are 5 types of suffering. That is referring to the 5 types of suffering. They are not mentioned here. The translation it is there. 5 types of suffering. So when a person is treading on this path of samsara, and a person is going through so many miseries, 5 types of suffering one is going through, the samsara is without a resting place. Sometimes he falls in the hole of happiness, sometimes the hole of distress. Sometimes there is a fear of the wild animals. And there is he is going through forest fires of lamentation. But even though a living entity is going through such a terrible experience in this road of samsara, but such ignorant people who are afflicted by lust, the word used is kama upasrishta, who are afflicted by lust. And they are carrying the heavy load of house and body arising from a thirst of sense objects. Vishaya mrigatrishi atma geha urubaraha. Para means load. Para means load. Which type of load? Urubaraha, heavy load. And what is this load referring to? Atma geha, the body and the house, are the things related to the body. Vishaya mrigatrishi. They are carrying the heavy load of the house and body, and this is arising from Vishaya mrigatrishi, because there is a thirst for sense objects. As soon as there is a thirst for sense objects, that leads to the very heavy burden of body, house, and the things related to the body. So when will the ignorant people who are afflicted by the lust, who are actually carrying the heavy load of house and body, when will such people kada padaukaste sharanada, when will they surrender to your lotus feet? When will they surrender to your lotus feet? So the very beautiful prayer, the members of the assembly, they are actually giving a description of the road of samsara and the different miseries in the samsara. And they are lamenting for the conditioned soul who are treading on the path of samsara, as to, although they are going through so much of miseries, although they are carrying the heavy burden of family, body, etc., but they are not surrendering to the lotus feet of the Lord. So when will they surrender to the lotus feet of the Lord? In that way, they are offering a very feeling prayer. So that means they are saying that if such a living entity does not surrender to you, then what can you do? Such a person is thirsty for the material sense objects, Mrigat Rishi, and therefore he thinks of his body as himself and takes on the load of house and other objects, and is afflicted with lust. Let us see Prabhupada's purport. The persons who are not in Krishna consciousness are living a very precarious life as described in this verse. But all these circumstantial conditions are due to forgetfulness of Krishna. The Krishna consciousness movement is meant to give relief to all these bewildered and distressed persons. Therefore, it is the greatest relief work for all human society. And the workers thereof are the greatest well-wishers. For they follow in the footsteps of Lord Chaitanya, who is the greatest friend to all living entities. Next shloka. This prayer is offered by Lord Shiva himself. Rudra Uvacha
रुद्र उवाच
Tava Varada Varangrav Ashisheha Kilarthe
तव वरद तव वरद वरांगराव आशिषेह खिलार्थे
Kyapi Muni Baras Kyapi Muni Birasaktairadarernarhaniye
यपि यपि
Muni Bir
मुनिभिर यपि मुनिभिर अशक्ते आद आदरेण हनीये
Yadi Rachita Diyam Ma Vidya Loko Pavidham.
यदि रचित धियम मा विद्यलोको अपि विद्धम
Japati na ganaye tatvat puranuggrahena
जपति न गणये तत्त्वत्
para.
परानुग्रहेण. Translation: Lord Shiva said, "My dear Lord, my mind and consciousness are always fixed on your lotus feet, which, as the source of all benediction and the fulfillment of all desires, are worshipped by all liberated great sages, because your lotus feet are worthy of worship. With my mind fixed on your lotus feet, I am no longer disturbed by persons who blaspheme me, claiming that my activities are not purified. I do not mind their accusations, and I excuse them out of compassion, just as you exhibit compassion toward all living entities."
Very beautiful prayer of Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva is saying that ignorant people, they criticize me as impure. If the ignorant people, yadi rachita diyam means if yadi rachita diyam Ma avidya loka apavidam. Avidya loka, yadi the ignorant people, apavidam, if the ignorant people criticize me as impure, yadi avidya loka apavidyam japati, criticize me as impure. When I am meditating upon your precious lotus feet, when I'm meditating on your lotus feet, but sometimes ignorant people, they criticize me as impure. My Rachita Diyam, my mind is actually fixed upon you. But the ignorant people, they criticize me as impure, Japati. But na ganaye, but I don't actually mind that. When I meditate upon your precious lotus feet, what is the nature of your lotus feet? Munibir asaktair adarena arghaniye. Asaktair munibir, detached sages. Adarena arghaniye. They were the detached sages. They worship your lotus feet with devotion. That is the nature of your lotus feet. And Varangrav Ashisheha Akilarte. Your lotus feet, Ashisheha Akilarte, can bestow all the benefits. Akilarte can bestow all the benefits arising from the desire. Whatever a person may desire, your lotus feet has the capacity to bestow all the benefits. Although detached sages worship your lotus feet with a devotion, but factually your lotus feet can bestow all kinds of benedictions. Varangrav Ashisheha Akilarte. So when I am meditating on your lotus feet, at that time, if the ignorant people criticize me as impure, apaviddam japati, na ganaye, I do not mind that. I do not give importance to such a criticism. Why usually all of us, when somebody criticizes us, we become very disturbed. Our mind focuses on such a criticism and we keep thinking about the criticism. But here Lord Shiva is saying that para anugrahena, by your great mercy, I don't consider that criticism to be significant. That means Lord Shiva is saying that because I am focused on meditating upon you, so therefore I am not mindful, I am not affected by such a criticism. I don't take that very seriously. So Shuddhaya Shantaya Namasva Nishtaya Manasya Partham Vilasadvayaya. When a person fixes his mind upon the Supreme Lord, then the dualities of this world, respect, disrespect, honor, dishonor, one transcends all these dualities. So, because of your great mercy, or because of the mercy of the devotees, I do not become disturbed by such a criticism. We see many examples that how Parishit Maharaj was not disturbed by the curse of Shringi. Chitraketu Maharaj was not disturbed by the curse of Parvati Devi. Ambarish Maharaj was not disturbed by the demon sent by Durvasa Muni because their mind is actually fixed on Krishna. Let us see Prabhupada's purport. So Lord Shiva is expressing his regret at having been angry and having disturbed the sacrificial activities of Daksha. So Daksha had insulted him in many ways. So later when Daksha was pleased, the yajna performances were reinstated and therefore he regretted his activities. Now he says that because his mind is fixed on the lotus feet of Vishnu, he is no longer disturbed by the ordinary critics of his way of life. So it is understood that as long as one is on the material platform, one is affected by the three modes of material nature. We see that Durvasa Muni, when Ambarish Maharaj took a little drop of water, by that he became so much affected He became so angry. But even though Durvasa Muni sent a demon to kill Ambarish Maharaj, but Ambarish Maharaj was not even slightly disturbed. So when a person is in Krishna consciousness, one is no longer affected by such material activities. One should therefore always be fixed in Krishna consciousness, busy in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. And it is guaranteed that such a devotee will never be affected. So one who is fixed in the transcendental service of the Lord has surpassed all the material qualities and is situated in the status of Brahman realization. Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma na shochati na kankshati samasarveshu bhuteshu madbhaktim labate param. Such a person transcends all the hankerings, na shochati, and he has transcended all the lamentation. So Bhagavatam recommends that one should always be Krishna conscious and should never forget his transcendental relationship with the Lord. So from the statement of Lord Shiva, it is understood that he was always in Krishna consciousness and thus he remained free from material affliction. So therefore, the only remedy is to continue Krishna consciousness in order to get out of the contamination of the material modes. Bhruguruvacha
Ruguruvacha
Yanmayaya Gahanaya Pakritatma Bodha
Yanmayaya Gahanaya Praharatma Bodha
Brahmadayas Tamasis Swapantah
Brahmayadasthanubhritastamasi Swapanta
Natman Shritam Tava Vidantyaduna Pitatvam
Natman Sritam Tava Vidanti Adhuna Pitatvam
Soyam Prasidatu Bhavan Pranatatma Bandhuhu.
Soyam Prasidatu Bhavan Pranatatma Bandhuhu. Translation. Sri Bhrigu said, My dear Lord, all living entities, beginning from the highest, namely Lord Brahma, down to the ordinary ant, are under the influence of unsurmountable spell of illusory energy, and thus they are ignorant of their constitutional position. Everyone believes in the concept of the body, and all are thus submerged in the darkness of illusion. They are actually unable to understand how you live in every living entity as the supersoul, nor can they understand your absolute position. But you are the eternal friend and protector of all surrendered souls. Therefore, please be kind toward us and forgive all our offenses.
Bhrigu is speaking. Bhrigu is persons having material bodies. Tanubhrita. And whose spiritual knowledge is covered by Maya. Yan Mayaya Gahanaya Apahrita Atma Bodha. Apahrita Atma Bodha, whose spiritual knowledge is covered by insurmountable Maya. Gahanaya Gahanaya Mayaya. Gahanaya, Prabhupada translates as insurmountable. Gahanaya is an adjective for Maya. Insurmountable Maya. Apakrita Atma Bodha. Those whose knowledge, those whose Swarupa is covered by insurmountable Maya, the embodied living entities. Such people, Tamasi Swapantah, they are afflicted by ignorance. Such people, even now, they do not know, they do not speak the truth about you. Aduna api, even now, Tava Tattvam, your truth. Aduna api Tava Tattvam na vidanti. They do not speak the truth about you. You are the Atman Shritam. Atman Shritam means you are the self-illuminated person. Atman Shritam Prabhupada Krishna Chakravarti says that you are the self-illuminated person, but even now, people they do not speak the truth about you, and you are Pranata Atma Bandhu. You are the friend of those who are humble. And Bhavan Prasidatu, please forgive us. Please forgive us. So Bhrigumuni is begging forgiveness from the Lord. You are the friend of the humble, please forgive us. But although he is begging forgiveness, at the same time he is saying that even now Brahma, Shiva and others, they are to some extent afflicted with ignorance. They do not know the truth about you. Tamasit Swapante, they do not know the truth about you, and you are the self-revealing person. Therefore, they do not speak the truth about you. And then he says that, but be kind to such ignorant people. I am also an offender. I committed offense. So please forgive me, but you also be kind to those who do not speak the truth about you. So you are the actually friend of Pranata Atma Bandhu. You are the true friend of those who are truly humble, those who sincerely offer respects, and those who are truly akinchana. You are the friend of such people. But please be kind to us also, and please forgive my offense also. This way, Bhrigumuni is offering this prayer. So Bhrigumuni was conscious of the scandalous behavior exhibited by each and every one of them, including Brahma and Shiva. By mentioning Brahma, the chief of all living entities within the material world, he wanted to state that everyone, including Brahma and Shiva, is under the bodily concept of life, Tanubrata, except Vishnu. So as long as a person is under the bodily concept, it is very difficult to understand the supreme super soul. But at the same time, Bhrigumuni is conscious that he is not greater than Brahma. Therefore, Bhrigumuni is also including himself in the list of offenders. Therefore, he is begging forgiveness. So the only remedy is Pranata Atma, the surrender to Vishnu, and always pray to be excused. So one should depend on the causeless mercy of the Lord for deliverance, and not even slightly on one's own strength. That is the perfect position of a Krishna conscious person. The simple process, therefore, is that a conditioned soul should remain surrendered to the Lord, and the Lord will give him all protection to keep him out of the clutches of material contamination. So we last shloka will take. Brahmovacha Naitat Swarupam Bhavatosau Padartha
नैतत् स्वरूपं भवतोऽसौ पदार्था
Vedagrahai Purusho Yavadikshit
वेदग्रहे पुरुषो यावदीक्षेत्
Jnanasya Chartasya Gunasya Chashrayo
ज्ञानस्य चार्थस्य गुणस्य चाश्रयो
Maya Maya Vyatirikto Matastvam.
माया व्यतिरिक्तो मतस्त्वम्. Translation. Lord Brahma said, "My dear Lord, your personality and eternal form cannot be understood by any person who is trying to know you through the different processes of acquiring knowledge. Your position is always transcendental to the material creation, whereas the empiric attempted to understand you is material, as are its objectives and instruments."
In this shloka, Brahma is offering this prayer. Brahma says that Naitat Swarupam Bhavatau So Padartho. Yavad, as long as one cannot see the form of the Lord, Etat Swarupam, by using material senses, one is merely under the shelter of the sense devatas, bodily parts, and sense organs. You are different from these material factors. So one cannot see the Lord with material senses. Lord is different from the material factors. So as long as a person does not see your form, one is under the shelter of the presiding deities of the senses. One is under the shelter of the gross organ, the sense object. But when a person sees the Lord directly, one is no longer under the shelter of the sense deities, gross organs, and sense organs. So that means one will have a non-material conception, since you have a spiritual form different from the material factors such as the sense devatas. The Prabhupada writes in the purport that how Krishna's form, qualities, etc. are transcendental. So the empiric philosophers, they try to understand Lord by speculation. That attempt is always futile, because the process of understanding their objective and the instruments by which they try to understand absolute truth, all are material. Process of understanding their objective and the instruments by which they try to understand absolute truth, all are material. If you want to measure the length of an object, you have to use vernier caliper. You cannot use a litmus paper to measure the length of an object. Or you cannot use a vernier caliper to measure the acidity of a liquid. So depending on the nature of the object, you have to use a particular kind of instrument. Because the Supreme Lord is transcendental, so therefore you cannot use a material instrument to understand the transcendental Lord. So the Lord is aprakrita, beyond the creation of the material world. Even Shankaracharya accepted that fact. Because Narayana is beyond the material world, one cannot understand him by speculation. Bhaktya mam abhijanati. Only by bhakti one can understand the Lord. The impersonalists, they try to understand by speculative processes. Such people cannot even approach the Supreme Lord. Whereas the devotees, because of service attitude, Lord is revealed to him. And Naham Prakasha Sarvasya Yogamaya Samavrata Mudoyam Nabijanati Loko Mam Ajamavayam. The fools cannot understand the Lord. The people are not understanding the transcendental nature of the Lord. They criticize the Lord. So, with this, we'll conclude. We'll continue the prayers next week. Anybody has any questions? Still, we'll end the class. Thank you very much for your patient attention.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji,
Yes, Mother.
you can hear me?
Yes, I can hear.
Prabhuji, just one thing. Here, Shiva regretted because of that he disturbed the fire sacrifice. But actually, Shiva was not involved in this. Now, only when Parvati, when he came to know that Parvati went into the fire, then he came here running. And by that time, his associates had disturbed. Is it that he is taking the responsibility for his associates, or what exactly it is?
Yeah, we can take it like that.
Mm.
The associates became little more excessively angry. They really destroyed everything. Lord Shiva is somewhat regretful of that fact.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Prabhuji.
We'll end here. Thank you very much. Nantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada.